Hi everyone, so thanks for coming tonight. Welcome to the launch of the Science Challenge 2015. Now, most of you are here tonight probably because I made you, or you want to find a bit more about Science Challenge, and you're in the right place. So the first thing that I'm going to do is tell you just a bit about the Science Challenge overall. I'm going to outline the important dates and how to enter, and also tell you what the prizes are this year. And we'll throw in a couple of speeches just to keep things interesting, and then I'll hand it over to our judges to introduce the questions for this year. So, what is the Science Challenge? The RCSU, the Royal College of Science Union, every year hosts a nationwide competition to highlight the importance of science communication. The definition of science communication is presenting a scientific topic to non-experts. And this is quite important for us because we, as scientists or as engineers, we might need to explain our research in order to get funding from different bodies. And if we can't do that, then we can't continue our research because we don't have the means to. Or, for example, for schools, you might have to explain to your parents, I want to study engineering instead of English. And your parents might not understand why. So communication is a very important skill that we all need. And Science Challenge highlights science communication in particular. Okay. The structure of the competition, is that it's open to both Imperial students and school students. The two streams are separate so that a third-year physicist isn't competing against a year 11. Yeah, so I'll go on to up on the screens. Tonight is the launch, and submissions are open from tomorrow until the end of February. So you have 3 months to go and either write a 2-page essay or film a 3-minute video. There's no excuse for not entering because it's plenty of time. And after the submissions close on the 28th of February, there'll be a brief marking period, and it will inform the finalists on the 15th of March that you've made it through. And the final will be held on the 23rd of March. Yeah. So you can enter either the essay category or the video category. The essay category has 3 questions, and you will write an 800-word essay corresponding to the questions that our judges have set. These are individual entries. You can only enter them by yourself and not in groups. The video category has a time limit of 3 minutes, and you can enter this either by yourself or with a team. Could you click? And ICTV, the student TV station at Imperial, has very kindly let us use their equipment for the entrance if they'd like to film their video professionally. They're also running a couple of workshops on the 4th and the 10th of December in case, like me, you know nothing about making videos. So they'll go along and help you with the technical aspects of that. And the only thing you have to do is buy £10 membership, which is pretty good, because if you win, you get a lot of prize money, and that definitely offsets it. So okay. The final this year is in the luncheon room at Inner Temple. It's a really beautiful room. What happens is that if you are a finalist, you will be invited to the luncheon room, and this is where we'll have the prize-giving ceremony, and the winners will be announced. And it's very, very exciting. Oh. The prizes for this year are now up on the screen behind me. I forgot to put animations in, so suspense is lost slightly. But for the essay question, if you're an overall winner, you will win £1,000 if you're an Imperial, or £500 if you're in schools, and as well as a shadowing internship in the House of Lords, kindly arranged by Lord Robert Winston. The question winners for the essays will win £400 or £200 for Imperial and schools, and the video question, because it's open to everyone, The overall winners will win £500 and the runners-up will win £200. Thank you. I'll now hand over to Serena to say a couple of words about the Science Challenge.
Hi everyone, welcome to the launch of the RCSU's flagship event, the Science Challenge. The Science Challenge was founded in 2007 and it's a highlight in the RCSU calendar. The final typically takes place in an exclusive London venue, as June has just outlined, and the Science Challenge is an exciting and perfect opportunity for you to communicate science in an engaging, concise and fun manner. Ultimately, the Science Challenge is here to provoke thought amongst scientists of the future. What are the problems affecting our society and how can they use science to resolve these? And how can we effectively communicate science and its consequences to the wider public? By taking part in this competition, you will learn about the challenges, creativity, diversity that science presents. We hope this competition will inspire you to expand your knowledge and take your first steps into the stimulating world of science. And only with your contribution and participation will we be able to explore the depths and boundless knowledge that science offers and encourage future generations in following your footsteps. I wish every one of you a good luck in entering the competition and hopefully see some of you in the final. Thank you.
Thanks, Serena. Now for our first guest speaker, Professor Tom Welton. He is currently the head of chemistry and is incoming Dean of Natural Sciences, and he'll say a couple of words about science communication.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Oh, God, you are alive. Good. It's nice. If you're going to make the final, it's good to be breathing now. Why am I here? Well, of course, part of the reason I'm here is I thought if I say yes to this event, then I'll get invited to the final and then have a nice posh lunch while you get your prizes, which would be a good thing. But also to, kind of give you a couple of hints at some things that you might think of. Now, often I get invited to these things because I'm considered to be quite good at communicating science, but when you find yourself in the presence of Robert Winston, you have to be a bit more humble and just say, well, I'm not bad at it. So, what kind of things might you think about? So let me tell you, I remember I was doing job interviews today, and the first question we asked, these were interviews for young academics, and the first question we asked all of them is, can you tell us about your research in a simple form? One of them could. It is important at some point in your life you might find yourself relying upon this. I kind of overdid it once. My first job here was the Lloyds of London Tercentenary Fellow. So Lloyds of London, the insurance people, gave me some cash to come and work here, and I had this incredible interview. Still, the most powerful room I think I've ever been in. I was interviewed by 12 people. The only person in the room, including the secretary taking the notes, not to have a title was me. And so it was, God, they were important. And at one point in the interview, I was asked, did I think I was a better teacher than I was a researcher? And so, of course, what I was thinking was bloody cheek. But what I answered was, which is absolutely true, there's no point knowing anything unless you can tell someone else about it. Science is not a selfish act. Science is not about what's going on inside my head. It is about you, and it is about the people that we teach, and it's about the people around us who might benefit from what we do. So, a couple of hints. First of all, what you should think about is, why does somebody want to spend their valuable time listening to me? Science communication is not something that we scientists do to other people. Communication is a two-way street. Okay, so think about that. Then think about, how can I relate a story? What is the story that I'm trying to tell? You just saw a fantastic example of that in the video. There's always a story that you can tell, a way you can lead people from the beginning and the very simple stuff through to quite complicated ideas, step by step. My best advice is, absolutely, watch the weather forecast. Weather forecasts and weather forecasters are amazing communicators of science. What they do is take incredibly complex information and they relate it to you about how it's going to affect your life today in a simple and straightforward manner. And they hit the word count to the second. 800 words, it might seem like a lot. 800 words is very, very few. So you really do have to be really efficient in how you use them. It's not an impossible task. People do it every year. People do fantastic jobs every year. And I'm sure that the vast majority of you will do such a fantastic job. It is only ever a shame in these things that there's only ever one winner. Well, I suppose there's different classes of winner in this particular one. So apart from that, good luck. Don't forget to enjoy it. That's the reason why you're doing it. And I look forward to seeing you at the final. Thank you very much.
Next we have Lord Robert Winston, who is our Science Challenge Ambassador.
Really, Tom Welton said it all, and he's absolutely right. Telling a story is really an important issue, and very often we forget to do that. You know, humans through evolution have sat around campfires telling each other stories, and it's a very important way of doing things. The other thing I would add to the very wise words he said is, if you can introduce a bit of humour, it doesn't do any harm. Make things more interesting. Don't take yourself too seriously. That's worth doing as well. Let me just say one other thing, which Tom really talked about already, but let's put it in a different way. And we were talking about this downstairs. It's interesting. Yeah, each of you in this room has got the most complicated object in the known universe in your skull. It's the human brain. It's got around 100 billion neurons in the cortex. Each one of them is connected at least 2,000 times to other neurons. So you've got something there which is more complicated than several large city telephone exchanges put together. Much more complicated. And the thing about this is this, I think, to illustrate the point, that we think of science as being a single person's, we think of geniuses representing science. Actually, any two of you together in this room will have more brain power than Albert Einstein or Isaac Newton. That's a very important thing to understand. And that's why communication is so important. Because actually the way we do science nowadays, increasingly, is to do it as a collaboration. And if you can't start off with communicating, then actually it's going to fail. That communication is really important. So this is a very good way of actually trying to focus down and really see what the important things are. And I usually tell PhD students in my lab, if you can't explain your PhD student project in 3 sentences to somebody who has no idea of the science at all, then it may not be worth doing that studentship. It may not be worth doing a PhD. And certainly if you can explain it, the science will invariably be better. So I think that's why we're doing that. It's actually because, you know, we are so dominated by the science learning that we do that we forget actually what Thomas just said. And I thought that point about being asked whether you're a researcher or a teacher, I've never thought about that. I think that's absolutely a fantastic point. You know, most of the research we do, no matter if you produce hundreds of papers, in the end, the impact isn't that great. But if you teach somebody else who goes on to do that science at another time, you've made a permanent impact on society. And so that communication really is very significant. So good luck.
Our first judge tonight sadly couldn't be here because he had to take his partner to hospital. But Mun Keet Looi is our first judge. He is the senior editor at the Wellcome Trust and is also an Imperial alumnus of the Masters in Science Communication. And he's worked with the Wellcome Trust, he's worked with The Guardian and Reuters, and is also on the Nuffield Council on Bioethics. he's just sent me a couple of notes of what he was going to say tonight about his question. My favorite memory from my childhood was bedtime. My parents would tuck me into the duvet, then perch on the bed next to me, flick through the pages of the book, and read me a story. Stories of wonder, of curiosity, of people and the world. As human beings, it's not data that we respond to, it's stories. I think of what I've seen today on World AIDS Day. A table of figures doesn't speak as powerfully as the personal tales of those suffering and enduring the disease, or the doctors and scientists battling to fight it. So my question, I want you to tell me a story from or about science. Science, like any part of culture, is full of stories. Who are the characters? What is its beginning, its middle, and how does it end? And how do they change the world? So it ties in very nicely with what Tom Walton said about stories. It's all about stories, and that's his question for this year. Our next judge is Professor Sue Gibson from chemistry, and I'll let her introduce her own question.
Thank you, Sue.
So there's been a lot said about communication and some very, very wise words, and I'm not going to try to add to those wise words about communication, but I want to throw something else into your thoughts at this stage, which is that as scientists, as engineers, people studying medicine, I passionately believe that we can get to a certain point, but if we want to be really effective, really change the world, then we need to be able to communicate, but we need to add into that aspects of the social sciences, aspects of the humanities. So I wanted you to think about that as you write your essays and prepare your videos, but as you go through your studies in the years ahead. You can get a certain distance, but we need to bring other things in if we want to be really, truly effective. And of course, we need to be able to communicate. I'm a chemist. Chemists get everywhere, it would appear. And I've been passionate about discovery. I've really had enormous thrills from discovering vinyl ketenes and writing lectures on pericyclic reactions and learning about carbonyl chemistry when I was an undergraduate. Absolutely passionate about discovering new things, sometimes finding that you think you've discovered something new, a new compound, a new reaction, and then finding on a little closer examination that you haven't, it's been done before, but then that's spurring you on to the next stage and trying still harder to discover something or make something which has never ever been made before. It's not been made anywhere else on the earth. It's never been made in history. It's a wonderful, wonderful challenge, and as you make progress, and even small progress, it's a very, very thrilling process. I've not wanted to constrain anybody. I want to hear about your passions. I don't want to point you in any direction because I fervently believe that the younger you are, the better ideas you have. So no real strong steers from me. My title is, what would you like to discover and why? Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Our next judge is Ruth Wincup, who is the Imperial Hub manager, and unfortunately, she's ill today. So the president of Imperial Hub, who's a student here at Imperial, is here in her place to represent her.
So I want to ask you, those of you studying at Imperial, two questions. Firstly, why are you studying at Imperial today? And secondly, what made you want to study a science? So I myself am studying maths at the moment, and my own story is that in school, I kind of liked maths. I wasn't too awful at it. But the key thing that made me decide to pursue it was that I was very lucky in that I had some very inspiring teachers who encouraged and supported me. However, this, unfortunately, is the exception and not the rule, and most students are not lucky enough to have this kind of support. And so this is why we're posing the question, how do we inspire the next generation to take an interest in STEM? So you might be wondering, sitting here in Imperial, why this is even a problem. Around here we have an abundance of keen scientists, but I think sitting here and studying in a place like Imperial, it's easy to forget what the wider picture is. And in fact, studies show that there's currently a shortage of specialised STEM graduates going into the workplace, with 42% of employers reporting difficulties in recruiting STEM proficient staff. And then if you tie this in with the fact that actually there's currently a shortage of school pupils studying STEM subjects, you realise that this is going to become a big problem. I think to just explain a bit more why we're asking you this question, about getting the next generation interested in STEM, I'll tell you a little bit about Imperial Hub. So Imperial Hub was founded in 2012 to support students in taking action on different social and environmental problems. And we believe that us as students have the power and potential to make a real difference in our communities. Now, as students, where we have the opportunity to affect meaningful change by taking action, and in the future, when we'll be leaders, creating new solutions and inventions to different social and environmental issues. And one of our most successful schemes to date is our Schools Plus volunteering scheme, which puts over 200 students from Imperial in local schools and community organisations across London. And what it's trying to do is tackle this deep-rooted correlation between wealth, education, and subsequent life prospects. Because a less well-off pupil, a school pupil, is less likely to do well in school. And I think a shocking statistic that I'll share with you is that only 16% of students on free school meals go on to university, in comparison to 96% of those in independent schools. So I think, taking all this into account, we feel, and I hope you'll agree, that the debate around STEM education actually finds a deeper underlying issue in educational disadvantage. And this is why I hope that what I've said has given you a little insight into these problems that we face. And we're very excited to hear your entries into the essay solutions into how we can inspire future generations to take up STEM subjects.
So you've just heard from our three essay judges, and now I'd like to introduce the video judge for this year, Professor Philip Moriarty.
Thank you. Huge pleasure to be here, and for the Arthur Conan Doyle fans amongst you, Sherlock Holmes fans, yes, you heard right, it's Professor Moriarty. Why he took again that name, I don't know, but I'm a physicist rather than a mathematician, and I've never been that keen on the binomial theorem. So, my question is rather straightforward. The email arrived while I was starting to assemble material for a module I now teach in our fourth year in Nottingham, which is where I'm from, which is called the Philosophy, Perception and Politics of Physics. And it's about everything that Rod and Robert were talking about earlier on. Science isn't done in a vacuum. The idea of the lone genius is a pretty flawed example of science. We have to be able to communicate, we have to be able to connect with people, we have to be able to collaborate. And as well as my research, and I guess I should try and give you a synopsis of my research in, what was it, three sentences, Robert? I'll try and do that. So I work with individual atoms, individual molecules. I bring them together, I measure the forces between them. Where we're going with that ultimately is, can we do 3D printing with atoms? Can we actually have a blueprint of a structure and build it up atom by atom? And so that forms part of my teaching at Nottingham, but also we're involved in a video series called 60 Symbols, which is a collaboration between Nottingham and a guy called Brady Harron, which is doing reasonably well. It's up to about 450,000 subscribers. I don't know, at this point, probably something like 35 million views across the videos we've done. My question is really straightforward, and I think it's going to appear now. Thank you, Philip. Why should I believe a scientist? Richard Feynman, when he was asked to define science in one sentence for actually a conference of school teachers, the definition he gave was, science is the belief in the ignorance of experts. And we all think about that and we all go, yeah, that sounds like a pretty good definition of science. That's what it should be about. It should be objective. We shouldn't be based upon received wisdom. Except that's not how science works. That's really not how science works. And what I want you to get at in that question is, why should you believe a scientist? What is the scientific method? Why should a scientist be any more objective or any more believable than anybody else? Indeed, are scientists always correct? Are they always believable? No, they're not. I want you to try and tease out when a scientist is communicating well and a scientist is not communicating well, what's the difference? What is it that makes a good scientist, both in terms of the research they do and also how they communicate that research? And you might like to think about things like uncertainties and error bars and, well, certainty in general. How certain can we be, and should a scientist ever be certain? That's my question.
Once again, I'd like to thank all of our judges for being here tonight and for introducing their questions, and also for Tom Welton and Lord Robert Winston for representing FONS and the Science Challenge. And I'd also like to thank Winton, our sponsors, who've basically made this competition financially possible for all the prize money that they're giving you. So thank you very much for coming tonight. Refreshments will be served downstairs. And yeah, enjoy the competition this year.